everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Monster Talks. My name is Raul Mendoza, and today I'm with Caleb Lara. He is a TV host, a photographer, a producer, a marketing genius, a actor featured on Scene W, a good friend, Caleb Lara. How's it going, man?
Mr. Raul Mendoza, thank you so much. What an intro. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's good seeing you. I know it's been a while since we touched base, Ben, but you and I got some history, and it was just a matter of time before I get you back on the podcast to share your story and share your knowledge, because I know you've been doing marketing for a long time, but also been in media and production and everything like that. So we're trying to, continue to talk to everybody in production, man. We're so inspired by everybody that's been doing it. So thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for showing up today.
No, and thank you for the opportunity. I've told you this off camera many times. There is so many aspects of what you do that I've always admired and looked up to. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I wanted to talk to you and ask you some questions, because I've got a lot that I want to pick your brain. I know we started to go into this podcast even before we started talking, but tell me a little bit about Elevate El Paso, because you've been doing that for some time, and I continue to credit, and I'll tell you guys here that Caleb was probably the first one in El Paso that was going around interviewing people, doing this kind of podcast stuff before podcast was kind of like a cool thing to do, right?
Like a thing. Yeah. Thank you. So Elevate El Paso came out of a desire to try to inspire and to try to set role models. I believe that society has a need for role models, not just on a personal level, but a societal level. And the way that culture has been going, we've kind of been tearing down a lot of what we used to have as our role models. So the concept of Elevating El Paso is something where I want to be able to inspire and be able to educate. So that, I believe, is my life purpose. The way I did that was always different. This time around, it just so happened to be in front of the camera. And so from that, it just, thank God, stemmed off from trying to hear people's stories, trying to find some little advice that would get somebody else going. And it's just steadily been growing, thank God.
And what started you on that quest, man? Like, how did you get, like, you're naturally a curious person.
Yeah.
We have a lot of similarities in our personality. So what got you like, you know what, I got to do this? Like,
Well, again, I believe, and I've, thank God, been aware of my life purpose since I was very young. And I believe that is to be of service and to teach. And so somehow or another, no matter what I was doing, that's kind of what I was doing in the background. So this was just, to me, a more direct way to reach more of an audience, to have a platform. And so that, combined with the curiosity of, I love talking to the older generations. I love the history of things, the magic of being able to be in the same place, see the same sights that some great personality did 100 years ago, and to know that that one site you're looking at is what could have inspired greatness in that person. There's to me, there's something magical about that.
yeah, there's something definitely magical about history, man, and looking at our past to understand our future, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the sad part about history, that if we learn anything is that we don't learn from history. So
Sometimes we don't, yeah.
and it's been it's been a little bit of a paradigm. Do I go out and just say history, or do I try to choose those stories that I feel I could, at the end, give some sort of spin that are going to be inspiring?
Yeah.
And I have done a couple where I don't spin it in an inspiring way, and as weird and not odd as this may sound, I come away feeling weird from it.
Yeah.
So I know that that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's not just like telling history, but giving a version of history that somebody could hear a story that'll stick in their mind and they'll get a lesson out of it.
Yeah. You may repeat what you just said, but why do we need to be elevating El Paso? And what does El Paso need to do to elevate?
Well, those are two very different questions. One, I believe that we as a species are mandated to leave the world a better place.
Yeah.
And so that's why we should be elevating our existence. And we start by elevating ourselves. And that brings along the people around us, and it starts a chain. And what does El Paso need to do to elevate itself? I probably get that mentality, where everybody's looking to thrive and helping those around themselves thrive as well.
Yeah.
And El Paso's pretty good about that.
Yeah. Do you think it's the lack of, and we can go down a rabbit hole on this stuff, but like I always talk about how we didn't grow up with books in our house and stuff like that. It was just knowledge that was passed on. But yeah, I think what you're saying is exactly true. Is just us having the want and desire, right? First, that's where it starts. Is everything was an idea before it was created, right?
Right. And so long as there's a desire to learn, and so long as there's a desire to do something greater than ourselves,
Yeah.
a desire to be of service, then whatever you do, it's going to be okay, and it's going to cost good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's something that Think and Grow Rich is one of my
Yeah.
books. I talk about this all the time. There's Napoleon Hill, Laws of Success, stuff like that. I highly believe in that, man. If you just start that energy, you think about it. That's how I've created all of this.
Yeah.
It's just been a thought that I haven't gotten rid of,
Yeah. So are you aware of the law of assumption?
Yeah. Yeah.
That I believe I live in one big assumption. It's like the whole point is I'm assuming that things are better. And when they are at that point, I'm
Yeah.
still assuming it's
Yeah.
going to get better.
Yeah, you always see the positive in every outcome, right, that you do. And even the negative stuff, you can find something out of it that helps you learn a lesson to take you to the next level, right? It's big. It's a big thing that I do the last podcast I was telling you about, I was telling Carlton that, I thought about it and I brought it into existence because I thought about it, So that was all important to me. So I do see that. I live in a big assumption myself, just knowing that we're going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but we'll figure it out and we'll get it done along the way.
Yeah, I think it was Wayne Dwyer. He said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
So it's all about that perspective, It's all about being able to get the best out of the worst.
Yeah, man. It's powerful. And I try to repeat that here because in repetition is how we do the auto suggestion to our brain. So I always try to incorporate that in every conversation that I have. So, yeah. So, I know that you've been doing these historical videos on El Paso, man. They're really, really interesting. I went
Thank
down
you.
a rabbit hole last night, but periodically I listen to your videos and I watch the videos. Super interesting stuff. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check out Caleb's content. What is your favorite El Paso historical story?
Oh, boy. I knew that question was coming.
And what surprised you most about it?
What is my favorite? Ooh. That's tough. That's really tough. I it's hard, bro. I can't give you just one, but can I give you a few examples?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So Adolf Shorts, here, I'll do this. Not specifically a story, but what my favorite thing has been is to find out how extremely hard life was for these people.
Yeah.
How extremely hard they worked.
Yeah.
How resilient they were, and how much they were able to achieve with so little.
Yeah.
I was about to say Adolf Shorts, late 1800s. He shows up. El Paso had just become El Paso. It was like 30 years old, and he had got into the U.S. at 16. He had 15 cents to his pocket. He was the one that started the Popular store downtown.
Yeah.
That guy brought people. He was Jewish. So
Yeah. I was, as you're talking about, I think, I work for the Krasnys. Nita, who was one of the people that worked there, that's her grandfather, I believe. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The guy was amazing. The stuff he did was amazing. His character, I mean, the legacy he left behind. When he started the Popular, he was changing the way society looked at things. He was the first one to hire black clerks. I'll give you a story. This is going to be the first time anybody hears this story. I was saving it for one of my videos, but
Cool,
you're gonna get
cool.
the very first one.
Awesome.
All right. So the great granddaughter of Adolf Schwartz finds a note, and it's her telling her daughter. Apparently, at some point, Maurice Schwartz was the nephew of Adolf Schwartz, and he was the one running the store. Pancho Villa didn't get his payroll from the government, from wherever he got the payroll. He sent one of his henchmen to talk to Adolf Schwartz and ask for $50,000. Back in that day, you're talking,
It's $1,000,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Adolf tells Maurice, do it and do it what you think is best.
Yeah.
Maurice lent him the money, and then Pancho Villa, a few days later, comes back and rolls a cart of silver across the river and tells him, take as much as you want. You know how much they took? $50,000.
Wow.
That is the type of character that I think is what's inspiring. That's why I love history. I love it because I love the iconography of it,
Yeah.
but because it shows you so much character from these people. There was nothing stopping him from taking so much more, and it would have been valid. Pancho Villa would have never said anything.
Yeah.
It that nothing would have happened. It was a matter of principle, and it's those things that when nobody's seeing you and you still do the right thing that change history.
Yeah, I can imagine at that period, there's no bridges, there's no boundaries. Because I was kind of thinking about it like, how did he come back and forth so much? He just walked across and, or they just rode across or.
Well, this particular story was at a trolley, a train trolley. And if we think about it, the only one that really existed is kind of where Asarco used to be. So it was probably there.
Yeah.
In regards to bridges, the Santa Fe Bridge was the first one, but it was just a bridge. There was no boundary. You literally just walked across.
Yeah.
They started a boundary in 1913, I believe.
Yeah.
They didn't start asking for papers till 1916. And then it gets really wild. They started, you needed to take an IQ test to pass.
Yeah.
You needed to take a bath
Spraying
in kerosene.
people down. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole phase got real wild. But you know what's another cool story? There was this guy by the name of Matthias. He came in, lots of money. He made lots of money, and he started the Mount Temple Sinai here, the first Jewish synagogue. He's the one that built the Hilton. Everybody believes that Conrad Hilton built the Hilton here.
Yeah.
Conrad Hilton was he was a small-time hotel guy in New Mexico. Matthias, who lived right here in Yandel, he saw potential in him. He asked him to run it. Conrad Hilton told him, I don't have the funds. Matthias arranged for him to get the funds and put everything on to this day, Conrad gets credit for our Plaza Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was really Matthias's.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
the crazy thing with history, man. It's just so many details and so many backstories and stuff like that. Where do you get a lot of your research? Is this coming from the temples, or where are these coming from?
Yeah, so they're all over. Some stuff I knew, some stuff from either the Masonic records.
Yeah.
There's been a lot. Most of these guys were Masons, so
Yeah.
that makes it easier. But you know what's been the coolest source? UTEP has a collection of interviews that were done all the way back to 50s.
Wow.
So in the 50s and 60s, Leon Metz, who was also actually a Freemason,
Yeah.
was interviewing the 80, 90-year-olds of the time.
Yeah.
So these are like only 3 generations from the pioneers. So they got to witness and see a lot of the growth of El Paso.
Yeah.
So a lot of the little details that nobody writes about are in these interviews. So I've been going in there and hearing 2-hour, 3-hour conversations that are now 50 years old that are really, really amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure they're really, really interesting. How I noticed that, the Masons have a very deep root in here in El Paso. What's the earliest find, and how did that get here, and what created that here?
Well, El Paso, To understand that, we first have to understand that El Paso was first not a cohesive unit. It was a bunch of scattered settlements.
Yeah.
The first one was McGoffin. It was called McGoffinsville, and that was 1850. Then Hart, Simon Hart, came in. That was out there by, you know where Oñates Crossing is?
Yeah.
That was all his. So, and that was also a little.
Are these settlers coming from east, or are these people just that lived in the area?
No, most of them were coming, east, some from Mexico, some from New Mexico, most east New York, I think, I want to say Kentucky.
Yeah.
But we had about 5 different settlements. In 1852, 7 brothers rode in horseback all the way to San Antonio to request a petition to start what's called a Blue Lodge, which is the first 3 degrees of masonry in El Paso. They were granted that, and El Paso Lodge 130 was started. It is the first lodge to be in a border region.
Which is where is that? Is it still in existence today?
Yeah, it's still the strong. It's still a very strong lodge. Yeah. It's in Magruder, by Bassett Center.
Okay.
They're still in existence.
So that's where the original was. The original location was there.
No. It's changed locations many times.
Okay.
The very first time it got registered in San Elizario. That was the first county seat. That's where they thought El Paso was going to be. When they figured that the railroad was going to actually be more further down to the river, then it shifted. Yeah. Some of the very, very first Masonic meetings ever took place in the building that was the Hacienda restaurant for many years.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
In Oñates Crossing?
Yeah.
They were meeting there. After a while, they were able to build, the Popular that we were just talking about?
Yeah.
That was the first Masonic building.
Wow.
And Adolf Schultz was a member of the lodge, and he bought it from the lodge and turned it into the Popular.
This was since 1850s?
This is already 1880s. Masonry in itself here started in 1852. It took a little bit of years before they got buildings and all that. Yeah.
What would be the motivation of like a business owner at that time? Was it for networking? It was like a networking.
No.
Or was it more for self-development and growth?
Yeah. The motivation for any man, whether entrepreneur or not, of becoming a Mason is because you want to be with like-minded people. Masonry's motto is we take good men and make them better. So the idea is you have a set of morals and ethics that you develop on yourself.
Yeah.
So it's definitely character building.
Yeah, so I was trying to, I mentioned to you off camera, but I'll mention it to you now, that my grandfather was part of the Freemasons back in the 50s and in the 60s, and we don't know much about it. My family doesn't know much about it. I first became curious when we shot an event inside of here at the facility here by the Chihuahua Stadium.
Scottish Rite.
Yeah, at the Scottish Rite, and then became more interested. I was talking to some of the guys like, hey, do you guys keep records? Or, just to understand a little bit more of his journey and so I was trying to understand, like, why would somebody want to join, or why would somebody, in those times, what was it about it that?
Well, in those times and now, the point is it gives you access to such a vast library, let's say, of information and knowledge that allows you to grow.
Yeah.
And by the way, you could write to the Grand Lodge in Waco and let them know his information, and they'll tell you what lodge he belonged to, when he was raised, and whatever other details they have.
Cool. Do they keep pretty good records?
Yeah.
Would it be just like meeting records or?
Meeting, initiations, passing of degrees.
Okay.
Anything, awards or anything special.
Yeah, I remember when we were kids, we would go to the Elks Lodge. I don't know, and then they used to have these little green, like little flechitas that they would give you, and that was your coin to get in.
Okay.
And they had a swimming pool. That's where we would go swimming. My grandfather lived here on Rio Grande. So, Yeah.
The elks were they're still around, but back in the 1800s.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it like a specific group of people within that are the Elks?
Yeah, yeah. The elks have nothing to do with masonry.
Oh, okay.
They're their own order.
Oh, okay.
There's many orders,
Okay.
many orders. Freemasonry just happens to be the largest and the oldest,
Yeah.
but there is many orders.
Yeah, I remember he had something to do with like burn victims, and he would do the Shriner stuff.
Yeah.
And
So the Shriners are Freemasonry has different phases you go through.
yeah.
So it's called the Blue Lodge. That's the first 3 degrees. Once you get that, you're eligible. You become a Master Mason, and then you're eligible to go into the Scottish Rite or the York Rite.
Mm-hmm.
And those take you to a series of their degrees. In Scottish, it's up to 32, 33. In York, it's up to the 10th and some orders. And then after you do that, you're eligible to become a Shriner, traditionally, like,
Oh,
like
wow.
your grandfather.
So he probably went through all of those.
He had
degrees.
had gone through all of that.
Shit! Wow.
So he was very likely, just by sheer odds and numbers, he was probably in the Scottish Rite, and he probably went to the 32nd degree and went to the Shriners.
Wow.
And the Shriners are the ones that have the burn hospitals.
Gotcha.
And the crippled.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So it's interesting. I'll definitely have to dig a little bit more around there because it's definitely something that I'm curious about. We look to our past to understand who we are. So
Yeah, it's in your blood. You definitely should look into it.
Yeah.
And like I said, the orders have had so much influence in the growth of the city and the economic scene of history. The Elks you mentioned, they were super powerful at the time. They were very, very influential. You had the Woodsmen, you had the Kiwanis, you had...
my mom said he was friends with Pat Golf and some of these other
Yeah.
people that I don't know if people remember the Pat Golf was a big furniture place and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it just recently shut down a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a medical building now.
Yeah, at that other brother that was part of that group was Dick Poe.
Yeah. So it's all from that same
It's that same school.
shit. It's crazy. So he was probably had the entrepreneur mindset because he was a welder. He was in the military. But
He probably did, but that doesn't have to do with him being
Entrepreneur.
masonry.
Oh, okay.
It means that it's somebody who's always looking to become better.
wow, cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to move on to going back to some of the history stuff because I know we started talking about. But what would be your favorite building in El Paso? Because I know you've done a bunch of buildings that you've looked at. Which one is your personal favorite and why?
Ooh, either the OT Tower or the Cortez, and I'll tell you why. The Cortez. I got to the U.S. when I was 5 years old, and when we got here, I come from very humble background. My mom used to sell food, and we used to walk around downtown. She was selling food. I was just a kid, and I used to look at the Cortez Hotel and just be at awe with it. I thought it was just the most grandiose thing. I would see the Spaniards' faces, and I used to tell my mom, one day I'm going to make a book with pictures of all these buildings in it. And to this day, I tie back everything I do in creative-wise to that decision.
That's crazy, man.
So I believe the Cortez building is what it triggered me to be a photographer, which ultimately led to everything I've done.
Wow, that's wild, man.
That or the Tower Bassett, just because it's so cool. It's probably the closest thing we have to Gothic architecture in El Paso.
Yeah, it is. I have a lot of memories like that too because my grandmother lived on Rio Grande, and I remember driving up and down the street, man. So it reminds me of her every time I come to work.
Yeah.
And I have those thoughts.
Yeah.
We used to hang out and just look at the stars from the porch and stuff like at the star from the porch. But maybe that's why I do all the damn drone shots of El Paso.
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with that.
Well, I mean, talk about having a good way to have what's the word that I'm looking for? A good way to stay grateful. I mean, every time I'm out there and I'm doing these buildings downtown, there's always some corner where I have some memory of being with my mom, of those times when times were really rough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So to be able to be there now and be talking about the history and be doing what I wanted to do at 5 years old, that's one of the coolest feelings in the world.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, I remember it was El Paso comes from humble beginnings, like just
Yeah.
us as a community, especially if you have parents that are from Mexico and shit like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, definitely. I have those same thoughts too, just thinking about, my grandmother, thinking about the days that we would, just walk the blocks and stuff like that. And I go back constantly to those memories as well too. So it's cool, man. It's super interesting.
It's good to stay grounded.
For sure. In your opinion, who is the most influential people? Who's the most influential person that ever lived in El Paso?
That ever lived.
Yeah,
Zach White, maybe?
is that quite?
Yeah. I think he was I don't know this for sure, but I think he was El Paso's first millionaire.
Really?
Yeah. And you're literally right next to his house.
Yeah, I was seeing the he has a White House, right? It was a White House, and he was like was he a governor or
He was a
he was
politician,
a
but
politician, but he was a banker, was he?
he was, dude.
He was everything.
Yeah. Yeah. He started out making bricks.
Yeah.
So he went from east down to Austin, and he started Austin. He was part of the commission that started Austin's first
The
waterworks.
waterworks. Yeah.
Then he comes back over here and starts making bricks, and because El Paso didn't have bricks, everything was done out of Adobe here, and so every brick building you see, those were his bricks.
Wow.
Then he started just about every single utility, not himself, but was
Yeah.
actively part of it.
It's like
He built el Paso del Norte, which Camino Real, Paso del Norte Hotel. He built that. I mean, he
Crazy.
started the trolley. I mean, there was that guy. If there was ever an entrepreneurial spirit, that's him.
he was it.
Yeah, he had 8,000 acres down in the Upper Valley. The dude cleared them by hand. That's wild to me. That's 8,000 acres. That's
Yeah.
a big piece of land.
Wow.
And when he finished clearing them out, he got 175 and made it a reclamation land so that the river could flood into that instead of coming and flooding downtown.
Wow.
So I guess what impresses me about Adolf Schwartz, about Matthias or Zach White, all these people, is the philanthropy aspect. They had made so much of themselves only to try to give it away as fast as possible. And
That's
and I
crazy.
think that's what makes them influential. I don't know if he's the most influential. I feel
Yeah.
bad because I have 1,000 other names coming through my head right now.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like all the new modern people, and obviously, like Paul Foster and people like that who are
Right.
obviously really big now. Um,
Woody Hunt.
yeah,
The stuff he's done. Oh my God, that guy is world renowned.
Yeah.
I don't think people in El Paso understand
Yeah.
the magnitude on a worldwide level of who he is.
yeah,
But sticking more on like the builders of El Paso, I would say probably Zach White. Hard pressed, I would maybe Matthias. You know, a lot of these guys, when they came into town, it was literally the Wild Wild West here.
yeah,
There was very little law, and they was all scattered. Mesa and Oregon were basically all prostitution.
prostitutes, man. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And so,
It was just a stop. It was a stop in between, and it was railroad
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah,
and so these guys had the courage and the character to bring order and law, and I think that speaks very highly of them, because a lot of them were bringing law just out of the character of who they were, not so much because they were commissioned.
yeah.
So
There's just their personality.
yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of the things as we get more knowledge, we want to share that, with others and help, most of us that go through that, we have that basic need as well to help others, to bring other people up. But
Like I was saying earlier, I do believe that's humanity's purpose. And it's not until every human comes to that point in their life when they're doing something that's greater than themselves that they find true fulfillment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's way more fulfilling than making money, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, at the end of the day, money makes itself.
Yeah.
You gotta just
Yeah. If
worry
you do
about.
this, this comes.
Mhm.
So, you talked about Elvis Presley's visit to El Paso in one of your videos.
And got the date wrong.
But we were looking at that, and what other history do you know about Elvis? Because we were looking it up, and Devin was mentioning to me that Elvis Presley had come to perform at the Coliseum. He actually was here twice. He had come in the 1950s. What part of it, or what do you know about the history, and what was he doing over here at the Union Square at the train station?
That's how he came into town, and I don't know a whole lot about it, and I don't know who's gonna hate me for this. What I do know is that when he performed, he was less than graceful to the crowd.
Really?
Yeah, apparently he felt a certain way about Mexicans.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What's the whole thing? And speaking on that, how did the KKK come to El Paso?
Right?
Like, how do you put that? I saw that in your video. I'm just like, how do they say I'm going to go to, like, right on the border?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure how they got here. I know they took grip really fast, and they literally did run El Paso.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was like the mayor, right? Or one of the mayors at the time.
Yeah, and all his aldermen and a lot of the school board, and there was excuse me, there was 3,500 KKK members at the time,
Wow.
and the population was just breaking 10,000. So how did it get to that point? That's wild. But El Paso, being El Paso, didn't really allow it very long. I mean, I think they were around for no more than 4 to 6 years or something like that. Do you remember Dudley? He was
He was named after the Dudley Field and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yep.
He was a congressman. That's another one that he was great too.
Yeah.
It's all these magnanimous characters where they give up stuff that you would think. He was a congressman. He was in Austin. He had just gotten elected for his second term. He had no need to downgrade his title, but he specifically gave up his seat out there to come run over here to go and take down the KKK.
Wow.
And El Paso, of course, overwhelmingly elected him, and KKK never really took ground.
Wow.
They had changed the name of certain schools. In fact, El Paso High,
Yeah.
for a while was named Sam Houston,
Yeah, I do remember.
and that was because of that.
Wow. Yeah. Is El Paso High the most haunted high school in El Paso?
I think I hear something about Gaston and Austin, but no, it seems like El Paso High takes it for
Yeah.
sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely is creepy when you're there, man. I've been there, like taking photos of people, and then the sun drops and there's nobody there, and you look up at those windows. Yeah, you start seeing people in those windows and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, and I saw some of the pictures that you shared on on one of your videos. Yeah, it's pretty odd how some of that.
I gotta do a follow-up video because after I put that one out, I've received several dozen
Yeah.
other pictures and videos, and there's one of a police officer, a EPISD officer, who's down in the basement, and they hear a noise, and he starts to record in his cell phone, and as he pans, you could see like a white dress, and the girl's like crawling under the what do you call those, like
Yeah,
the tables.
definitely share that, man. That'll be super interesting.
Yeah,
Was
no.
it the basement was it really a morgue
Yeah.
that was used during the Spanish flu?
Yeah, it was, and at some other point too, the tuberculosis.
And they just filled it in with concrete, or what? Does the basement still exist?
It still exists. There's actually classrooms down there that
Creepy, man.
they've stayed as they are. Can you imagine that? You see it, and
Yeah.
it looks like it's a classroom from 100 years ago.
Yeah. Teacher's like, you're in detention. You're
Yeah.
staying in this class by yourself.
You're going to the dungeon. Yeah, that's the boiler room now.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it still exists. That's wild. I for some reason I always thought that they had sealed it off.
Well, it's blocked off to the students, but it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still
I'm sure
part
the
of the.
custodian that has that night shift He's like, nah, I'm cool. There's a misty figure in the 1980s photo that you had shared.
Yeah.
That was pretty creepy too.
1985, and again I gotta do a follow-up video because I've had 3 people that are in that picture that have written to me, and all of them say nobody saw that girl when we were taking
Yeah.
the picture. Nobody knows where she came from.
I think about it though too. I think about my high school picture. And I don't remember half the fucking people.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah.
I don't remember that person. It's a ghost. Yeah, no, but the face looks kind of blurry, so it's kind of creepy, man. Maybe we can put up the picture. But yeah,
Yeah, apparently there's some museum I haven't seen, but apparently El Paso High has a museum where the original pictures there and a lot of the items are there.
yeah. Ken Hutnall claims that El Paso had at one point 900 miles of underground tunnels.
Yeah.
What were all those tunnels used for? Or what were they doing all these tunnels for?
Cartel, bro. No, most of them I think came from the Chinese back in the day trying to take refuge. So
But this was was it after like once they started like having bridges and like people had to show papers and stuff like that, or
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they basically finished building the railroad and then the U.S. kicked them out.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I remember.
So have you heard of
Yeah.
the Turtle House apartments?
I saw your video on it. Yeah.
You saw another video. I haven't made it.
You haven't made-
I'm
okay.
waiting for them to
Okay.
give me access. The tunnels are still there.
Wow.
And they have them closed off.
Yeah, that's what it was, and I must have read an article talking about.
Yeah, it's
that they're-
pretty well known. But yeah, it was when the Chinese were trying to take refuge and trying to get away.
That's crazy. 900 tunnels.
That's
I'm
wild.
sure there's more
Well,
tunnels now.
I mean, back in what's Executive and Paisano, where Portland Cement is,
Yeah,
there's tunnels there that you could fit a semi.
yeah.
They got motion detectors and don't
We-
get anywhere near
My
'em.
grandmother had at her house had a basement, and my grandfather was digging a tunnel. I don't know what the hell.
Really?
I don't know what the hell he was doing, but there's a hole in there, man. It went pretty deep in there.
That's crazy. You gotta go get those Oak Island guys to go check it out.
I never would go in there because I was scared of the damn thing collapsing, man.
Yeah.
Because there was no rebarb. It's like literally like dirt. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm amazed at the ingenuity of these guys. I've always wondered how they get away from the water.
True. Yeah.
They gotta hit some water
Yeah.
tables.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, it's not like there's no shortage of those.
Yeah, man. It's dangerous work too to be digging those
Yeah,
tunnels.
I could imagine.
Yeah. So, is it true that Pancho Villa used also tunnels, or was he just crossing?
No, he not just did he use them, but he actually stored a lot of his stolen treasures there. And there's a house. There's a house out here in Leon.
Yeah.
Downtown.
Was that
the
where
stash
they?
house.
Yeah, the stash house, and then they raided the stash house.
They
and
raided,
found-
yeah. And
Did he? He had $50,000.
yeah,
there?
and jewels and so on. But that was in the safe.
Yeah.
Years later, they found that. So the guy that owns it, Enrique, he got the Oak Island guys to come down and search or whatever. And I believe they found some artifacts in the
I'm
tunnel.
sure he probably had more stuff. Wow. So, was he like a bandido, or what was he before? Like he became what he became. Do you know?
Yeah. Did you know that he worked at a Sarco?
No, I didn't know that.
Isn't that wild? And
Yeah.
he tried to unionize them and get them all together, and then nobody listened to him. I think he thought it was a little bit too hard of work. So there's an interesting story. His parents were basically not slaves, but servants in farms in Mexico. Somebody tried to abuse his sister. He kills the son of the farm and has to run away. And after that, he dedicates himself to stealing horses. So technically, yeah, he was a bandit.
Yeah.
Pancho Villa was far from an honorable man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. Oh my God, and I probably shouldn't say this. 'Cause
Yeah. The girls from social media were telling me that that there's some stories in Juarez that about him being he was a bad guy.
yeah, he was crazy, and I'm hesitant because this is a hero to a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you look at the comments,
Yeah.
I called him a killer at some point.
Yeah.
And that pissed off some people.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
okay.
she was telling me that in Parral they have like statues of him and
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely a hero to a lot of people. I don't know why people don't tell stories of him showing up to little towns and killing the whole town, or just having these sadistic tendencies.
why is it that everybody or every Latino, every Mexicano has a story, a Pancho Villa story?
Because he is what you think of when you think of machoism. He is the iconography of the macho. And I mean, machoism was a cool thing in Mexico up until 10 years ago,
Yeah.
15 or something.
Wow. Yeah. So, and when he came here for a meeting with a president, right? Or he had a general, right?
He had a meeting with General Scott in what is now Beto O'Rourke's house. But that was way after he actually lived here. And uh, here's another interesting fact. Do you know the Merrick building? I think it's Opaso Street and Overland.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Right across from it, there's a two-story building. Madero, Abraham Gonzalez, and Pancho Villa, Orozco, a couple of others, they planned the revolution there. And you know the Capos building?
Yeah.
From there, they moved around the corner to the Capos. So the Capos was the second site to the first provincial government of Mexico. So these guys were literally living in
Was
our
he from
downtown.
this area or
No,
no? So he just came.
he
Because
came running.
that's what I
it's
was saying.
safe
Because
for here.
yeah, because there was like a lot of war going on, like in the Agua Prietas kind of area, right? So a lot of people merged north.
Yeah, right. And not just that, but while the revolution was going on at the beginning of it, the United States was kind of backing up the revolutionaries. So in the beginning, we, El Paso, loved Pancho Villa. I mean, they even showed a movie of him in the theater downtown that he got to go see. Imagine. So he was a bit of a Hollywood star here in the beginning. After the government changed and Pancho Villa still wanted to keep fighting, and the United States was kind of like, we kind of like the new government already. That's when he had the meeting with General Scott, and they brought down the fear of God on him.
Yeah, man. And there was a famous photographer from here, or a person from here that had his own photography stuff that was able to capture all that. Imagine capturing that moment in that photo, man. That's pretty crazy.
Oh man! Oh, you're are you talking about Porfirio Diaz
The photographer,
and
the
Teddy Roosevelt's meeting?
yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah. That was Altman was the photographer.
Altman, yeah.
Yeah, he was
He was the first
that's
marketer from here.
yeah, there was actually a few pretty cool
Yeah.
ones. Yeah. um, Here's for the conspiracy theorists. Taft was a Mason. Porfirio Diaz was a Mason. Altman was a Mason. They met at a Masonic hall. All the soldiers and guardsmen were all Masons. There was nothing about that agreement or that treaty that's not Masonic.
Yeah.
And that is something that
That was one of the things I was tying together. All these people that are very influential and had an impact on the city
yeah.
were all Masons.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard not to when you're spending so much energy into trying to become a better man.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you do is probably going to be great.
Yeah. There's power in obviously in the power of the mastermind or the past power of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely I can see big things happening out of a group of very motivated people coming together.
Yeah, and very much of one vision. Um, it was small. It was more manageable.
Yeah.
It's not always the case now. I mean, a lot of times, no two Masons think alike.
Yeah. Yeah. In today's world, well, shit, there's so much going on. With everything that's changing right now, what do you foresee? And this is kind of like going off the subject, but what do you see happening in the next 10? What do you think is going to change in the next 10 years?
Our economic system, the power that Mexico has, our relation with other countries. Depending on who goes up next, which we kind of know who's going up next, we're probably going to be trying to go more on the independent side. we're probably going to be a lot tighter to Mexico, and Mexico's probably going to have way more leverage on us. And I don't think we'll have the digital coin, but it as a full out thing. But it's definitely going to go that direction. Did you see that BlackRock bought all the Bitcoin that was left?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. What does that tell us? They're trying to standardize it.
Yeah. I think we are going to standardize that. And a lot as to everything that you're mentioning has to do with the the devaluation of the dollar and the continued, all the sanctions that we put and everything like that. It just started to take its toll.
And BRICS is way more powerful than they were just 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they are legit a contender now.
Yeah. There's a lot changing, man. What's not going to change in the next 10 years?
Oh, wow. I hate to just throw an answer out there. What's not going to change in the next 10 years? In the next 10 years, that's not a very long time. Probably media still playing but good guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
Probably that the
At what point do we start having
polarization.
robots doing the filming for us?
Doing the filming for us. The filming for us. I mean, we kind of do already. But I don't think that's much. Like, I don't think AI is taking our job.
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool, and I think it makes us way more productive. But the human element is what makes art. The human element is creativity. The the magic of mankind is that sense of love and creativity, and that's the closest thing that we have to being godly. And that's not something that a machine could mimic. And so if we were to get to the point where it's just AI doing it, it's very quickly going to get to the point where everything is monochrome. It's one, we have the same, we have everything looking alike. So it wouldn't be fast before humans are back at it.
Yeah.
So I don't think AI is going to take our job, but I think it's definitely making us hyper productive.
Who do you think's behind a lot of this stuff, man? Do you think it's humans, or do you think there's some kind of alien or some type of higher
Oh,
energy there that's...
I don't.
Do you believe in aliens?
I so very much want to. I I want to say
I tell people after COVID, man, there isn't nothing that I won't believe.
right.
Because, yeah.
But the Fermi paradox really keeps me up at night. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that they're out there, but where the hell are they? Maybe it's just too hard to travel
You
through
don't believe
space.
in like the Anunnaki and like that whole...
I I think they're very interesting stories, and I think the more we learn and the more archaeology we have, the more pieces we're able to put together, and the clearer it seems. Um, I would be okay saying yes.
Yeah, because some of these buildings, like the pyramids,
Yeah,
and you look at that and you're like, how the hell did a human get those rocks up there, man?
yeah.
Like, especially the one in Giza.
I mean,
Like,
have you seen the Hindu temples that were built from the top down? That's mind blowing. How do
Yeah.
you carve
yeah,
this elaborate temple starting from the top down?
yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, there's definitely some
Knowledge or something.
that we have a blank on.
Yeah.
It's almost like we de-evolutionized, or like there was
Yeah.
a wipe
reset.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I do agree. I think there was at one point. I think we might have civilization might be older than we think.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that's probably where the whole flood thing comes in.
yeah.
We have so many flood stories everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. You were talking about magic. You're talking about, this is when we think about magic, there's a lot. We can go down a rabbit hole on that stuff, but
My favorite rabbit hole, by the way.
yeah. When you think of magic, is it more like magic tricks, illusion, or is it magic in the sense of
Creating change.
Yeah.
Creating change. Yeah, it's magic with a K. So there's MAGIC.
Yeah.
I pull a bunny out of a hat.
Yeah.
There's MAGICK. I become one with God.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more about taking the reins of your spiritual evolution. It's more about causing change in your world. It's more about understanding things beyond your ego and in a more godly, divine perspective.
Yeah. And where do you what motivates you, or what brought you into that state where you started to become aware of the magic?
I have a funny life story. I don't think I ever not was, just simply because I was born into, I was born in to parents who were pastors and a father who was an occultist, and so I never was not aware of it. In regards to what motivates me is getting that little taste, that first little taste of a mystical experience, that first little taste of real gnosis, of a real clarity and understanding. It's so addictive that it's hard to not want to only do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not end up being that one dude in the street in the corner singing Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I mean, it really is, because once you taste that, it's nothing else seems better. So so the hard part is staying grounded and realizing I still need some of my ego. I still need to do something in the physical realm.
Yeah.
I'm way more useful to God as a
Do you believe
human.
in like multiple dimensions?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, if you see if you see the description of God in the Bible, it almost seems like he's in a fourth dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, man. Especially now with TikTok and stuff, you can go down a rabbit hole with some of that stuff, right? And like you said, yeah, you can be out on the street just because this stuff could really make you question everything. I think that's probably why people struggle today, because today you have access to
Yeah,
so much information, man, that misinformation that could,
and there's no synthesis. That's the problem.
yeah,
That when I was a kid, studying magic was, I had to ride my bike to the library, hope to find some book, go out to the mountain and try to. It was not what it is today.
yeah,
You had a little bit of information and you got the most out of that little bit of information.
yeah,
You had a really well defined synthesis. Now, it's so hard to synthesize it because there's so much information.
yeah.
And I think it's leading to a crisis of being over informed.
Yeah, I think so too, man. You had mentioned in one of your videos a person, a curandera named Teresa Urea. Was that which kind of like was very interesting about her story?
What's very interesting about her story was that it's a 19-year-old skinny, scrawny little girl, and the emperor of Mexico calls her the most dangerous girl in Mexico. There's something to be said about that inner fierceness, that tenacity
Yeah.
that
Do you
allows
know
you
what
to.
happened that caused him to do that?
Yeah, she was basically the spiritual backbone to the revolution.
Mm.
She advocated for indigenous rights and for them to have the right to own land, and that led her to lining up with the revolutionaries.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was basically their fortitude, their
And she was
spiritual
healing
fortitude.
people through this process, or
And she was always a healer, so she was more of a philosopher, healer, activist, Joan of Arc type of thing. She
and
was
she
pretty
ended up here
wise.
in El Paso, right?
She got kicked out of Mexico, ends up in El Paso, and later moves to California.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, pretty crazy. Across the street from her was Pablo. I forget his last name, but he wrote Los de Abajo, which is the first book ever written of the revolutionary. And they were literally across the street from each other. Imagine you're writing a book about what that girl across the street inspired.
I wonder if they had any crossing of their
I'm
paths.
sure. I'm sure.
Wow. Um, Yeah, it's pretty interesting on all the stories, man. But everything from the spiritual realm and whatever it is, um, how what kind of impact do you think it's had on you from a business perspective?
From a business perspective, I don't think I could be sane running a business without having a spiritual foundation. Um, I also don't think I could be a visionary. I don't think I could be able to have inspiration to be creative
Yeah,
if I'm not spiritually okay. Again, we identify and relate to God by what He creates. That's the only way we know God, by His creation. Therefore, the most godly thing to do is to create.
yeah,
So the spirit of creativity is divine, and
yeah.
that's what my business is.
That's crazy. Look at what I'm staring at. You read that?
Wow. Yeah.
He's talking about it. I just, I was going to ask you that. Why is the joy of creating a big part of our lives?
Yeah, yeah. It's because we get the taste of what it is to be divine,
Yeah,
creating beauty, having access. It's again, it's how we relate to each other. It's how we relate to God.
yeah. How can one develop like the initiative to create? Like, how can somebody? You've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs. You've interviewed artists.
Yeah,
What do you see from them?
spend time in nature. Let the awe of the universe take you in, and let your mind be tired. My most creativity comes when I have not slept for a day or two, and the mind is so tired that it kind of goes into this focused tunnel vision, and you're not wrestling 1,000 other thoughts. So spend time in nature, look at the beauty of just creation, and let that awe of the universe
Slow the brain.
and slow the brain.
Appreciate what you see around you.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we're here, the precision it takes for all of this to exist, the, not just confirms a creator, but confirms that creativity is what we're here to do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big part of life for everybody. I think it's a good way for us to spend our time as being creative is part of the joy of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the
To
end of
express yourself.
to, ex- to express yourself, because at the end of the day, the only thing we're doing here is giving a platform for God to experience Himself through us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you remember? And I want to share this with you guys. So we had an interview probably about 6 years ago. You went to my
Oh
garage
yeah, yeah,
and you interviewed me. Do you remember that?
yeah, clearly.
Yeah. So I was going to share that, and we'll put up a video to show you guys. But Caleb was asking me some of these questions as well. You know, like what motivates you? What do you need to do to get started? And you know, I look back and it was a really good thing. And thank you for doing that for me, because I can look back at myself and I smile just because I still have that very core mentality to create,
Yeah,
to be creative in the space that I'm doing, you know. So it's pretty interesting, man. I'll put the video up so you guys can check that out. But I think creation is a big part of our lives, especially for us that are artists, people that are artists. I think everybody's an artist, but uh, for those of us that take it up as a career, to be able to create is what's important. That's always the lack that I felt in every job that I worked at, that I felt like I was in a box, man, and I needed
yeah,
to be able to create and step out of that.
yeah,
And that's what this platform has given me the opportunity to be creative, to explore, to ask questions. Out of all the people that you interviewed and all your interviews that you've done, what do you think makes a person like to be not just creative, but be able to take that and make their own destiny with it? What do you think like makes that entrepreneur? What are those things that you've picked up,
what?
like from
Repeat that.
from all the people that you've interviewed, what are the lessons or the tidbits that you see that are common
Okay.
amongst these people that are successful or people that are doing things out there?
The hardest thing to do is the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah.
Don't take any shortcuts.
Yeah.
Be consistent and just do things the way they're supposed to be done. Just follow through on your steps. Be ready to be adaptable,
Yeah.
and I think that is the number one thing out of everybody. The fact that nobody's looking to do a shortcut. Everybody has a vision greater to themselves. That's where they're going, and they're just following through on the steps.
Yeah.
They're being consistent, and if shifts and turns come, they adapt. And I tell you this because that was literally my biggest personal lesson. A lesson I perhaps shamefully should say still struggle with sometimes. I've always been of the thought that if you have plan A, the minute you have plan B, you're starting to give up on plan A.
True.
But but that's not what I hear. You know, so
Yeah.
so that adaptability,
Yeah. You got to be able to adapt if something goes wrong. You just build it up and call it Plan B, and start working on that. Right.
yeah, yeah. And I think that as long as you are always, and this perhaps is not the best thing for everybody because it's led me to a lot of heartache and all kinds of stuff. But I've always led my life in such a way where I try to always give the most idealistic response, the most idealistic action.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm doing that, whatever it is I say or do is going to be a good thing.
What what makes what things can people do if they're in their job right now to start moving towards taking their own stuff? Because you've been able to build your career on your own.
Hmm.
Most people can't do that. What steps can people take to do that?
The simple ones, list. It starts with a gratitude list, and it starts with a list of goals. It starts with a change of perspective. So if you have a job and you don't want that job, but you want to do something else, you make a list of why you're so grateful for that job.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're going to change the way you're perceiving it. And when you start changing the way you're perceiving it, the things that start happening in that jobs change.
Yeah.
And the doors will open and they things will come to you. I think it's all about resonance. You know, how are we resonating? I truly believe life is a mirror. I think that the way people respond to you and the things that you're living and all that you see in the world, it's just giving you a feedback of what's going on within you.
Within your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a reflection of your thoughts, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. I truly believe in that. That's big, man. I always tell my kids that if you come in like this, what you see out here, if your room's a mess, man, that's what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
Like, so definitely. And there's a good saying that I really like, and this goes for people that are trying to sell. And I think if you go into just any type of career, you got to sell yourself. You're a salesman, right? Or a saleswoman. That no salesman is successful in selling others until he has first did a good job of selling himself.
Himself, yeah.
So you have to think that first. Like you say, you start from within, and then you can branch out. What kind of things are you seeing going on with marketing now? You're in marketing. I'm in marketing. We've been in marketing for a long time. I think we've known each other probably for over 10 years now.
Hmm.
What things do you see that are now changing in the marketing world?
That it's no longer about perfection and neatness. It's about human and organic.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this, my videos, I was trying my hardest to have them very clean, cutting out all the any mistake, so on and so forth. There was a time I didn't have time. I just put it up and there I am stuttering like I always stutter and this and that. And people loved it.
Yeah.
I think it's the human element
Absolutely.
in marketing that is way more of a thing now. Nobody wants the corporate message anymore.
Yeah. I tell people and I tell businesses all the time that people want to follow people, not
Yeah,
businesses.
exactly.
And so you have to get in front of camera. Why do people struggle so much to get in front of the cameraman?
Because they feel it's looking through their souls and it's going to reveal something about them that they don't want the world to see.
Yeah. Yeah. People are so shy. It's hard to do this, what we're doing. You know, we're having a casual conversation with cameras in front of us, but most people feel like, you know, they kind of shrink into that thing. But I tell a lot of business owners, if you can do that, man, you're standing out. Like right off the bat, 95% of business owners are not going to get in front of the camera to sell themselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest mistake that business owners can do today is not get in front of the camera to sell themselves. Somehow they feel like, oh man, it's because I don't want to put my personal life out there, whatever it is, you know, like it's
Yeah.
like, man, like this is the way that we can sell today and get in front of people, right?
It's the only way. I mean, we know it takes 9 hits for somebody to take an action if they have a need. If they don't have a need, it's well over 30 some hits. So the only way that somebody is going to take an action in your business is if they feel trust. And trust is only built through repetition.
Yep.
So it really takes that business owner being in their face every day. 30-second reel goes way more than some corporate message post or, that just him saying something relevant to his business is going to get
Yeah,
him
people
more.
don't really understand. Like in our content, if you see it, we do no really hard selling. I think up until recently, we did one video talking about The Office, but majority of us, our stuff is trying to educate, trying to inform, trying to entertain
Yeah.
people. Um, and then people say, why do you run an ad on your drone shot? Why do why are you doing this kind of stuff? And I try to explain the world of social media. You're being social.
Yeah.
Every owner wants to sell 100%, right? And if you sell 100% on social media, you're missing the boat on what social media is all about. You got to
Yeah.
be out there. I'm constantly networking. I have relationships with other people, such as yourself, that have their own companies, their own marketing companies, their own stuff. And I think that's what we have to do. And a lot of business owners are missing for them to be able to take their company to the next level. And I believe, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I really feel that the businesses in the future, it's going to be very hard to be successful without the social media component, to sell.
It already is.
Yeah.
We're already at that point. You know, the reach that I have on social media compared to what I have on TV, it's mind blowing. I mean,
It's crazy. And you and I both come from the traditional world, from
yeah,
TV and radio. It is pretty interesting, man, how the thing has changed. We can just pop on a video like this and we're in front of people and we can get a message out.
hmm,
My goal is to be putting out 1,500 pieces of content every single year. So,
wow,
yeah, we couldn't do that in a traditional station because we just wouldn't have the capacity, the budget, and stuff like that. So that's one of the other things we're doing is teaching business owners how to take marketing into their own hands. We're teaching business owners how to set up a camera, even if it's your cell phone, to be able to deliver a message and to structure it in a way, kind of like you're running your own TV station, and create segments so that way you find what segments work.
yeah, and I think it's good that you're doing this because the majority of what we do comes down to educating the client.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if they don't understand the need, then they're never even gonna try to do anything. So
Yeah.
I find myself
Educating people.
educating people.
Yeah, it's big, man. We just got back, and I was telling you about Carlton Dennis, who's a good friend now, and also has helped me in the tax space. But Carlton, has generated millions of dollars from a bedroom that size, or a small bedroom, and he shoots his videos. We went and saw his little setup and we were just amazed at what he had created out of that little bedroom. And he
Yeah.
generates so many leads from those videos. It's something that we couldn't do the traditional way from knocking on door. I mean, that's the way that I met you.
Yeah.
You know, we would work for companies that would send us out to talk to companies, and you go maybe 3 appointments a day, right?
Yeah.
That was all you can. Whereas today we're reaching thousands and thousands of people through this content that we're creating, and that power is on steroids, man. It's a thousandfold. I told you we're now branching out outside of El Paso. We're looking to bring in work here to El Paso. That is my goal. It's always been my goal, is to bring respectable marketing jobs to this area in technology and innovation. And today we're also incorporating AI into that mix. And that's changing the way that business owners see things, but also changing the way that we think, because before we would just think like we can only sell to the guy up the street. Whereas now can have clients all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm currently right now working on my masterclass too.
Nice.
So I'll be delivering. Part of doing that was setting up my own home studio. So when I get done here from putting in my 8 to 10 hours or whatever we put in per day, I go home and I'm going to be recording, doing my own videos at home.
Nice.
And then I have my team to edit a lot of the content. But there's a lot of cool technology where, you know, with the Elgato little switch, you can program different cameras, have different camera angles, have an iPad, have different screens where you can cut back and forth on. So this is all really cool, man. This is really exciting. And I've started to dip into that world. We're building up. I have my business. I have Monster Link Marketing, but I've started to build my own brand, Raul Mendoza, which is the channel that you guys are seeing now, which I decided like I'm going to be an influencer in my space.
Yeah.
And continue to do that. But it's not going to be limited to just my city. We're going to go out and do it nationwide. We're going to create a ton of content because we have the capability. And I'm also doing it to show other owners that they can do it, whether you're a doctor, a tax professional. This is a way to generate a lot of leads and for you to be able to scale your business at a rate that has never been available to us.
Yeah, content marketing is king.
Yeah, man, it's a game that's changing. I'm excited about it. The game is changing. And that's why I like to ask people, like, what do you think is going to happen in 10 years, 5 years? Because I love to look back at these videos to see, you know, what we thought and how our brain was working at during those times, as far as like what we predicted was going to be the future. But I'm really, really thinking that we're going through a change right now with AI that's going to change the way we operate. I always thought that search engine optimization was that change. For the longest time, I was like, man, the game's changed, which it did. It did, and we're seeing the fruits of the labor now. But with AI, man, it's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah.
This is going to change us as a human. Our DNA, the way that we operate, will change with the way that we search, with the way that we interact. Right now, we're in phase 1 of AI, which is we're talking in text by typing. Phase 2 will be us talking into a device such as like a Google Home. And then phase 3 will be all out with like a robot, an actual moving thing, a robot or some type of moving assistant that will help us and will probably execute on a lot of stuff.
Which would, I guess, make transhumanism phase 4.
Yep.
I mean, they won't be too long before it's integrated.
Yeah.
It might not be stoppable anymore.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we're too far, man.
And we might be some of the last generations of actual human beings.
Yeah.
I mean, we might actually have some sort of hybrid in the future.
Yeah, I do think that this is where it goes back to, you know, as you think of things like the stories of the Anunnaki. But I do believe at one point we will be able to combine to be some type of cyborg. Elon Musk is already working on stuff, and you've got many other people working on it that will change the way that we think, that will change the way that we operate. And we're already in motion. Like you said, we're headed down that road, man. So a part of me, because I'm very curious, I'm a futurist. I like to think that myself as a person who's always looking 10, 20 years down the line. I'm a futurist in that sense. So I always like to see what's next, what's coming around the corner, man. So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen. We're going to have the first $1 trillion company with only 2 or 3 employees.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I told you earlier that the agency will have 50 people, but I'm really shooting to have 25, and and we can be generating upwards over $100 million a year. I believe in the future with technology, with the way things are set up. The editing of a lot of these videos is going to be done by AI.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot is going to change. We'll still need the human element, but we'll be our role will change.
It's gonna make us hyper productive. I mean,
Yeah,
we're basically just gonna come in to add the human element.
yeah,
All the major cuts are gonna be done. All the most tedious stuff will
yeah.
probably be taken care of, and at that point, we will only become more creative in ways we can't even imagine at this point.
This is why there's so much opportunity in every line of business
Mm-hmm.
for you to look at the technology, to implement it, to change the game, take over your industry, and to to be disruptive in a
Yeah.
major way, man. We're going to be very. That's one of the things. So I own Monster Link Marketing, but I also have an IT company, and in the IT company is implementing systems for businesses
Mm.
to be able to utilize technology to scale on a different level.
Yeah, and I think that what you've just said is the key to success. It's not so much being an influencer as much as it is being a disruptor.
Yeah,
It's being able to do things differently and
yeah,
differently enough to where it changes the game.
yeah. We're living in a time that we used to look up to Michael Jordan, athletes. These were the big stars, the Hollywood stars. But I think people today are kind of getting tired of like I'm not gonna call it or put it down, but the overabundance that these people have access to.
Hmm.
And now the people that we're following are influencers. So they're becoming our Hollywood stars. And there's a huge market. I talked to you, about influencers that we're working with, and we're starting to get into the space of managing influencers to help them monetize their following, just depending on what it is, and connect them with brands that
Hmm.
it makes sense to connect with these influencers, because it has a huge impact. When you can get the word out to 100,000 people like this, it's crazy. It's what we're shooting for. TikTok, we're halfway there to the 100,000, but our goal is 100,000 across all platforms to begin with, and then we'll look to the next stage. But it is important to have that aspect, to understand that game, so we can advise our clients a lot better. That's what I'm excited about today. It's a different world, man. The way that we're marketing, it's very interesting, and all the tools that are available today are really, really cool. I never saw myself, even when you came to interview me, I never saw myself one day I would have a podcast. But this stuff is really fun. It's really interesting, and I'm showing business owners that you can put content out to educate people on the things that you love, in any level. I've had people tell me, "Oh, well, man, like nobody needs another podcast and stuff like that." But I am of the person that I'm up for the challenge to go after it, man, and just continue to show. But this is proof that you can create your own thing in your own field and educate people through what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about your tenacity, and
Yeah,
it's admirable.
yeah, man. There's a lot of things that are brewing in the world of marketing, and we're trying to just stay afloat, stay with it as well. But we look to bring a lot of that back to our city, man.
Yeah.
Here in our town, we have a lot of talented people. The
Yes.
biggest part that I saw, Caleb, that we were missing is the entrepreneur side of it. And I'm not even going to say entrepreneur, the business management side of it, because we have very talented people, but the organization and creating processes and procedures becomes overwhelming for us. And we were talking about this earlier, because we don't have this school, man. We don't have people that are helping us on this stuff to tell us how you should structure your business or entities, and how to create cushion in your business and create money. This is the part that I see a lot of business owners here locally, and that's one of my passion, is to bring that kind of education here to this area so that we can scale, because I think we can compete bigger if we think like Zach White. We
Yeah.
think like these guys, man, that were disruptors. Like you said, there was disruptors, but they did it in a very calculated way, and they were continuing to educate themselves. They were continuing to give back and utilize all those principles to continue to build the organization.
Yeah, and it says a lot about the resilience of being able to continue to just adding on, and being of service, and being checking where it is that I need to change to be of service to others and
Yeah.
to my clients.
That's the bottom line, guys. Like, if you can give back value, give back service. I always tell people, and I tell these guys all the time, man, you have to be more valuable to deliver more value. You
Yeah,
know, you want to make more money, be more valuable,
exactly.
create more value to people and stuff. And if you focus on the value part, the money will come, so that's what we're trying to do through the marketing company, man. It's like, yeah, it's a traditional marketing company. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with the videos that we do, but underneath it all is very calculated steps for our business and for our community, for us to bring innovation, technology, and AI jobs to our area.
And it's great that you're doing this, and that you have so much education about it, because people like myself, I'm primarily a creative more than a business oriented person.
Yeah,
And I mean, you have to deal with the business, and you make it happen one way or the other, but my mind works different, and
absolutely. Yeah.
the discipline is not the same discipline as a businessman would have.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a struggle, and it's a gift that you have to be able to have both worlds, and educate on that.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Sometimes it's overwhelming, honestly. But I always just bring myself back, and I'm trying to fight. I'm always fighting for it every day because I'm still that kid, like you said, that kid that didn't have anything, man. So I'm just trying to bring it back. But I'm excited about what the future holds for us, man. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. We're a little bit over an hour, so I'm gonna sum it up. But I appreciate you coming on. It was a really interesting conversation. All your videos are very interesting. Continue
thank you.
doing that shit, man, because our city needs to know who we are and what we're about. I love that. Um, I told Devin, like, I want to bring it back to local. We had been out two in a row. We were in Scottsdale and then we were in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, we need to continue to push our local, bringing that up, and also for the new viewers, for you guys to have a little bit of education of the Southwest and of El Paso and what it's all about. So, who better to do it than you, man?
All of us. I'm nothing special,
Yeah,
but
man.
but
So
it is a great region that we're in, and there is a lot to be inspired by.
yeah, we've got some good people here, and we've got some very talented artists. And if we put it all together, man, I'm sure there's abundance in business. There's an abundance in opportunity for our community and stuff. So, thanks for coming. I want to continue to elevate El Paso, man. So
Yes,
I
sir.
praise you on that message, because it's very important for everyone, for all the youngsters, these young guys, for the next generation. That's going to be, that's what I want to do, man. That's my give back. So
Thank you, and thank you so much for the platform and the opportunity.
yeah, man. Caleb, thanks for coming through. We're definitely going to run this back one day in the future. If you'd be up for it, I'd love to have you
Always.
back on the show, man.
Thank you.
All right, man. So that's it, guys. That concludes another episode of Monster Talks, guys. Go follow Caleb on Elevate El Paso or his personal pages. Check him out, man. There's a lot of really interesting content. If you want to learn about this region, if you want to learn about El Paso, he's the guy that's going to give you that information, man. He also interviews a lot of people. I didn't cover more. I wish I would have gone into more stuff, but Caleb also is an actor. He's done stuff, and I'd really love to dig in a future episode about Dolos and some of the projects that he had worked on with the CW, man. But till next time, guys, we'll see you again. Again, stay positive, and we'll continue moving this forward, guys. Peace.